Welcome to this explainer. All right, let's just dive right in. Because tonight, when the sun goes down, you're probably going to walk into a room and flip a switch. Light's going to flood the room, and honestly, you won't even think twice about it. But we're about to explore a pretty jarring historical reality, one that it's absolutely going to fundamentally shift how you view the darkness tonight. Think about this. For 99.9% of human history, that simple light switch you just flipped, yeah, it didn't exist. When the sun set, the world went completely, utterly dark. Like, couldn't see your own hand in front of your face dark. Which means that for over 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors spent roughly half of their entire lives in near total darkness. No light bulbs, and for the vast majority of that time, not even candles. Part 1. The World Before Light. Let's rewind the clock 300,000 years. So to really understand what we did in all that darkness, we have to realize that before we discovered fire, night meant absolute, pure vulnerability. Your useful day abruptly ended the second the sun went down. If it was winter, you were looking at maybe an 8-hour day. Then, you literally climbed a tree or found a sheltered spot, and you stayed completely still. Why? Because moving around at night pretty much guaranteed you'd become a midnight snack for leopards, hyenas, or wolves. They had the night vision, we didn't. Without light, hiding was our only option. But then, we learned to control fire. The earliest solid evidence of this comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa roughly 1 million years ago, and it mathematically changed the game for our survival. Think of a campfire as creating this 30-foot circle of safety. Inside that warm, glowing circle, you lived. Predators wouldn't dare cross it, but wandering outside that boundary, almost certain death. It was a literal physical boundary between life and death. Moving into part 2, how fire builds culture. This is where we started adding usable hours to our day. Now, fire did way more than just keep us from getting eaten. It literally birthed human culture. There's this brilliant anthropologist, Polly Wisner, who spent years recording the conversations of the Kalahari Bushmen to understand this ancient way of life. And what she found was that during the day, 80% of their conversation was purely practical, work logistics. Who's hunting where, which plants are ready to be picked, economic negotiations. Daytime talk was strictly about survival. But look what happens when the sun goes down. At night, around the safety of that fire, the entire character of human interaction just totally transformed. A massive 81% of talk shifted to stories, adventures, and myths. Jokes that would make the whole camp laugh. That campfire, it became our original theater, our original classroom, our original church. It's really where humans learned to imagine things that didn't exist yet. Basically, it's where we became us. Which brings us to part 3, first and second sleep, the lost rhythm. So this expanded, firelit day created a completely different biological rhythm of rest, and it's actually hidden in over 500 historical references, from Homer's Odyssey all the way to medieval medical texts and diaries uncovered by historian Roger Ickert. Before the industrial age, humans did not sleep in one continuous 8-hour block like we stress ourselves out trying to do today. No, they experienced a first sleep for about 4 hours, then woke up for a conscious period lasting 1 to 2 hours, which they called the watch, and then they'd go back to bed for a second sleep until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. For thousands of years, this was just entirely normal. Now, you're probably wondering, what on earth did people do in the pitch black for 2 whole hours in the middle of the night? Well, they were actually highly active. A 16th century French physician even recommended that couples use this specific time to conceive children, which, certainly passes the time in the dark. But people also visited neighbors. They laid there interpreting their fresh dreams. Or, as old medical manuals advised, they used the time to read, study, and just engage in deep, calm reflection while the rest of the world was totally still. Part 4, the biology of darkness. Let's look at a fascinating 1992 experiment. Get this. Historians actually used to alter the translations of ancient Greek and Latin texts for centuries simply because they literally couldn't comprehend a different way of sleeping. That is, until a landmark 1992 experiment by psychiatrist Thomas Veer validated this whole lost history. Veer took a group of volunteers and plunged them into 14 hours of total darkness every single night for a month, mimicking our pre-light bulb winter nights. And guess what? Within weeks, without any instruction whatsoever, every single participant naturally settled right back into this exact biphasic sleep pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 2 hours awake, 4 hours of sleep. It was as if some ancient program had just been waiting inside them the whole time. And here is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. During that wakeful period between sleeps, Ware measured their hormone levels. He found that subjects produced highly elevated levels of prolactin. Now, why does that matter? Because this is the exact same hormone released during deep meditation. They weren't just tossing and turning out of frustration. They were experiencing a distinct, incredibly peaceful state of consciousness that most modern humans have completely lost. Part 5. Conquering the Night. Or the death of darkness. So what exactly stole this midnight meditation that our bodies spent 300,000 years evolving for? The answer is light. We conquered the darkness super rapidly, in just a few centuries really. Back in the 1600s, Paris installed the very first street lamps under Louis XIV to help reduce crime. Then came cheaper gas lamps in the 1800s, which finally turned the night into something you could easily navigate. And then boom, 1879, Thomas Edison commercializes the electric light bulb. Within just a single generation, the dark night, as humans had known it for 300 millennia, was essentially wiped out. Just to show you how much we used to fear the dark, look at the origin of the word curfew. It actually comes from the French couvre-feu, which means cover fire. It was a medieval law requiring citizens to extinguish their fires at night. And not just for fire safety, but because the night was supposed to be pitch black. The night belonged to criminals and the supernatural. Walking outside after dark without a lantern was even straight up illegal in a lot of cities. We were terrified of the dark, so we defeated it. Part 6. The modern insomnia myth. This is where we hit a massive biological collision. See, we flooded the night with light and patted ourselves on the back, calling it progress. But what we actually did was trigger a massive biological collision with our own evolutionary programming. That ancient campfire, it extended the day to foster human imagination and culture, sure, but its dim, warm light didn't suppress our natural sleep rhythms. Your modern screen, however, it's blasting your retina with blue light at 11 p.m. And because your body honestly cannot tell the difference between the actual sun and an iPhone, your brain gets tricked into thinking it's still daytime. It aggressively delays your melatonin release, fragments your sleep, and basically wreaks havoc on millions of years of carefully calibrated circadian rhythm. Today, we're soaking up an average of 7 to 8 hours of artificial light after sunset. But here's the incredibly good news. Researchers found that just one single week of camping without any artificial light at all is all it takes for our 300,000 years of programming to reassert itself. Within days, your melatonin cycles reset by nearly 2 hours, aligning perfectly back with the actual sunset. That ancient programming, it's not gone. It's still right there, just waiting in the dark. So, here's what I want you to take away from all this. The next time you wake up at 2 a.m., staring into the pitch dark, feeling super frustrated that you can't just sleep solidly through the night, ask yourself a question. Is this really a modern sleep disorder? Or is this just your ancient biology trying to give you back that peaceful, lost consciousness we so eagerly traded away for a simple light switch? Something to think about tonight. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.